Safar was dead, and the moment they buried her, the nightmare began. Her grieving family believed the worst had already happened. They were wrong, because shortly after the funeral, her younger sister Mawar started seeing things no living person should ever see. Her dead sister's ghost, weeping at the door, wandering the halls at night, and standing behind that ghost, something far worse, a demon, a queen of the Djinn, the very entity responsible for Safar's death. And there was a secret sealed inside the autopsy report that this family was never supposed to read. Before she died, Safar, unmarried secretly, was pregnant, and the child growing inside her was never human. How is that even possible? Who wanted this family destroyed? And why did every single clue lead back to the people Safar loved the most? Trust me, when the truth finally crawls into the light, it is more horrifying than anything you're imagining right now. This is a newly released Indonesian horror story, and I'm going to walk you through it, step by step, until the very end. But I'm warning you now, once you see where this leads, you can't unsee it. The story opens at the edge of the sea. A lone girl pushes through a forest of thorns, wading through muddy, stagnant water, until she reaches the shoreline, where a crude wooden platform rises out of the shallows like an altar. Scattered around it are the tools of black magic, and hanging in the air is a voice that doesn't belong to anything human. The girl lies down on the platform, and then it appears. A massive black hand, its fingers too long, too wrong, pressing down against her belly. She screams. Her eyes roll back pure white. And in that single moment, the story tells you everything without saying a word. This girl isn't a victim lying on that platform. She's a vessel. Something is inside her. Something is being done to her. Then the scene cuts away, and the horror quietly waits. We arrive at a celebration. A gathering at the home of a man named Omar, a respected local leader with guests everywhere, a decorated stage, and cameras flashing. The girl behind one of those cameras is Mawar, Omar's younger daughter. Along the walls hang family portraits, and through them we meet the mother, Sari. Once radiant, now hollowed out. 7 months ago, an accident left her barely able to walk. Omar watches the party with tension behind his smile, because elections are coming and he intends to climb higher. His father, Mukhtal, an even bigger name in the region, sits among the guests like a king. This family commands respect. This family has power. Then the elder daughter, Safar, enters in a traditional dress. Sari reaches out to touch her and flinches. Something passes through her in that instant. Something cold. Something wrong. She shakes it off. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal. But remember that flinch. Sari wants a family photo, all 4 of them. She sets the camera timer and hurries to sit beside her husband. And here, the story slips in a detail so quiet you might miss it. Sari reaches for Omar's hand. He pulls it away. She smiles for the camera anyway, the hurt swallowed whole. Hold on to that moment, because that tiny rejection is the crack this entire nightmare pours through. Omar takes the stage. He tells the guests that 7 months ago, an accident nearly broke this family, that his wife was paralyzed, that they survived the trauma, and that now he intends to run for higher office. In the crowd, one man's face hardens into stone, his political rival. Afterward, a group of dancers asks Omar for photos, and Mawar happily licks away. Sari watches from her chair, silent, because there was a time when she was the famous one, a celebrated dancer, a name people knew. Now she can't even cross a room, and her husband poses with strangers who are everything she used to be. When the rival gets up to leave, Omar walks him out, and the exchange crackles with barely contained hostility. Mukhtal's arrival cuts it short. But as the old man leaves, he pulls his son close and tells him, "From now on, be careful. Prepare yourself." It sounded like political advice. It wasn't. While the party roars, Safar comes to her mother, and Sari notices something that stops her cold. Blood on Safar's dress. She says nothing to anyone. She simply takes her daughter by the hand and leads her to the washroom. And in that washroom, something terrible happens to Safar. The story doesn't show it. Not yet. It just lets you feel the weight of it. The door closing, the noise of the party swallowing whatever happens behind it. Mawar, meanwhile, notices her sister looks sick. Worried, she hands her a packet of food and tells her to rest. A small kindness, the last ordinary kindness anyone will show Safar in this story. Mawar heads to her friend's photo studio to print her pictures, and her friend has news that should change her life. Mawar has been called in for a journalist interview, her absolute dream, but instead of joy, hesitation. Her mother is ill. Her father would never let her leave. And if he wins the election, he becomes a minister, and then no one will be left to care for Sari at all. So quietly, without telling anyone, Mawar decides to stay. Keep that in your pocket. This is a girl who puts family above everything she wants. The story is about to make her pay for it. At the nomination office, Omar officially receives his nomination. And who should walk in but Wahid, his rival, carrying a plate of home-cooked food. He offers his congratulations and proposes a clean, honest fight. Omar accepts graciously. The moment Wahid leaves, Ricky, Omar's most trusted man, steps in. Don't eat that. It's election season. That food could contain anything. And Omar, poisoned by suspicion, dumps the entire gift into the trash. That night, in a small house, a woman named Noni is cooking when a dreadful premonition sweeps over her. Then, knocking. Slow. Wrong. She opens the door and finds Safar standing there, sick, desperate, terrified. Noni glances around nervously and pulls her inside, and the story cuts away. Hold that image, file it away, because that knock is one of the keys to everything. Late that night, Mawar sits filling out her application form when she glances outside and sees Safar walking home alone through the darkness, a small beaded bracelet hanging from her wrist. The anger boils up instantly. She storms out and confronts her sister. "Where were you? Mom is sick and you're wandering the streets at night." The argument escalates. And in her fury, Mawar comes to the edge of a filthy word, a word no sister should ever call a sister. She catches herself, barely. But Safar grabs her, gripping her arms. "Say it. Say what you were about to call me." Mawar rips free, walks inside, and shuts the door. Safar pounds on it, begging, crying. The door never opens. So Safar lies down outside it, and eventually she falls asleep. Now look at the bed beneath her. The sheets are soaked in blood, dripping, pooling onto the floor. And then Safar's eyes flicker open. Pure white, the beads in her hand begin to tremble. And like a puppet whose strings have been pulled, she rises in her sleep and walks out of the house into the dark. Hours later, Mawar jolts awake. Wind and water seeping under her door. She opens it and freezes. A thick blood-red liquid is pooled across the floor. The lights flicker and stutter. A bell rings by itself. The front door creaks open on its own. And as she steps out into the hallway, something follows her. She sees nothing. She feels everything. She tells herself her sister must have left the door open. She closes it, goes back to bed, and forces herself to sleep. That decision will haunt her for the rest of her life. Morning explodes with the ringing of the telephone. Omar races in. "Where's your sister?" Mawar has no answer. No one does. Omar tears out of the house in his car, and Mawar chases him on her bicycle, all the way to the sea, where a crowd has gathered and police lines stretch across the sand. Omar breaks through, screaming his daughter's name, and Mawar runs in behind him and sees it. Her sister's body, taken in the most horrifying way imaginable. Both of them collapse into the sand, shattered. And back at the house, Sari's screams tear through the walls. The post-mortem is done. The burial follows. The whole family gathers to say goodbye. Even Wahid comes to offer condolences before quietly leaving. And in Omar's hand the entire time is the autopsy report, sealed, unopened. A father too broken to read the truth about his own daughter. Remember that envelope. It's about to detonate this entire family. At home, Sari dissolves. Omar breaks differently, quietly, inwardly. If I couldn't even protect my own daughter, how am I supposed to protect an entire district? He confesses this despair to his father, and Muqtal comforts him. Her death was fate, not your failure. You're a good leader. Do good for your people. It sounds like love. It sounds like wisdom. And honestly, this is where you should start paying very close attention to Muqtal. Because the comfort is coming from the exact wrong direction. Unable to sit still, Mawar goes to the place where her sister's body was found. She stands in the silence, and then a sound. From deep in the forest, she picks up a stick and knocks it against a tree. Tap. The forest answers, the same rhythm. She knocks again. It answers again. Cold crawls up her spine, but she goes in anyway, knocking as she walks, deeper and deeper through thorns and filthy water. And suddenly, a horrifying figure comes flying straight at her through the trees. She spins around. Nothing. Empty forest. Shaking, she keeps walking and arrives at the wooden platform from the very first scene of the story. Confused, she steps down and something small and sharp bites into her foot. An earring. Safar's earring. The one she was wearing the night she died. Mawar's memory detonates. This earring wasn't found near the body. It was here, at the platform. Which means Safar was here that night, hours before her body turned up on the shore. Mawar races home and shows the earring to her father, breathless with the revelation. Omar listens, thinks, and then hands it to Ricky. Give it to the police. Mawar explodes. Investigate it yourselves. You can't just dump this on the police. This is Safar. But Omar shuts it down cold. The police will handle everything. And right in front of her, he locks the unopened autopsy report inside his study drawer and sets the key down on the table. Almost like an invitation. Mawar storms out in fury. She just doesn't know yet that the drawer holds two secrets. One about her sister and one about her father's entire life. Omar sits alone in Safar's room, weeping over her photograph, and Mawar, in her own room, sorts through pictures of the two of them when she discovers two cassettes tucked away. She slides one into the radio. It's Safar, singing. A beautiful, gentle song recorded just for her little sister. Then on the tape, Safar laughingly coaxes Mawar to say something back to her. And the recording warps, static, distortion, and suddenly the radio begins playing the last conversation the sisters ever had. That argument, that night, that door. Playing back through a machine by itself. Mawar's blood runs cold, and then right against her ear, closer than breath, a whisper. Safar's voice, saying the filthy word Mawar almost called her that night, saying it for her. Mawar recoils in terror, the radio snaps back to normal, and outside a low rumble rolls through the air. She stumbles from her room and finds her mother collapsed on the floor violently, terrifyingly ill. Omar rushes in, a doctor is called, and somehow the night is survived. In the days after, Noni comes to help care for Sari. She gently reminds Omar that he hasn't prayed in ages, and the words slide off him like rain off glass. And when the doctor finally steps out, his careful observations reveal something deeply uncomfortable. Omar barely knows his own wife. Her illness worries him less than the election. Whatever this marriage was built on, it isn't love, not anymore, or maybe it never was. The next morning, Noni returns to care for Sari and notices something on Sari's leg. Marks, wounds. She steps aside, thinking hard, saying absolutely nothing. Mawar approaches her with questions about Safar's death, but Noni refuses to speak of the dead. Then Mawar says it. I feel like Safar isn't at peace. Something crosses Noni's face, fear. She just tells Mawar to take care of her mother and leaves fast. Mawar is not the sitting type. She tears through Safar's room hunting for answers. A pen rolls under the bed, and when she bends to grab it, she sees it. A steel container, hidden in the shadows beneath the frame. She opens it. Inside, family photographs and tiny folded notes. Love notes. Someone loved Safar. Someone close enough to hide it inside her own house. That night, Mawar decides to sneak out and hunt for the truth, and the lights die. And in the darkness, Safar. Wrong. Terrible. Drifting toward her little sister with dead eyes. Mawar's flashlight clicks on, off, on, every flash pulling the thing closer, closer, until a hand lands on Mawar's shoulder and she nearly screams. It's Omar. Furious that his daughter is sneaking out at night, she tries to explain. I need the truth about Safar, and Omar's voice cracks like a whip made of fear. If something happens to you too, what happens to me and your mother? Mawar goes quiet, and the truth in her father's eyes is its own kind of terrifying. The next day at the photo studio, Mawar prints every photograph from the steel box, and as one image slowly develops in the chemical bath, both she and her friend go completely still. It's Safar, with Riki. Together, she prints everything and races home, straight to her father's study. Empty. Perfect. Using the key left on the table, she opens the drawer, hunting for the autopsy report, and discovers a hidden compartment inside it. A secret drawer within a drawer. Inside, old photographs. A strange woman, a wedding photo. Her father's wedding, to a woman Mawar has never seen in her life, and a small box holding a wedding ring. She stares but shelves the mystery, and pulls out the autopsy report her father never had the courage to read. And when she reads it, her entire world tilts. Before her death, Safar suffered a miscarriage. Unmarried Safar had been pregnant. That night, Omar comes home late, and Mawar is waiting. She lays it all out. The report, the pregnancy, and the photographs of Riki and Safar together, and Omar detonates. In his mind, the math is simple. Riki, his most trusted man, got his daughter pregnant and left her to die. Rage stops being an emotion and becomes a whim. He grabs his gun. Mawar screams him back from the edge, mostly. He still fires a shot right beside Riki's head, and then beats him mercilessly in front of Sari until Mawar physically drags her father off the man. The police arrive and haul a broken, bleeding Riki away. And that night, lying beside her mother, Mawar whispers the thing she's never said. I know you loved Safar more. I just need you to know I love you too. Sari's answer is quiet devastation. I don't even know what it means to sleep beside a mother. I never had that. But you two, you were my whole life. Then Mawar asks the question devouring her. Now Safar's soul will find peace, right? Sari has no answer. Deep in the night, sounds snap Mawar awake. Sari is sitting up, staring at the ceiling, murmuring to someone who isn't there. Then, an instant later, peacefully asleep, Mawar leans in and the world slams shut. An invisible force pins her to the bed and drags her down into it. Water floods from nowhere. She's drowning in her own mattress. Black, monstrous hands grip her from below. And visions tear through her mind. The black magic tools, the platform, Safar, and the black hand cradling a child, not one child, two. The hands release her. She looks up, and a spirit is descending straight toward her, pointing at her, and its voice carves a single phrase into her mind. The third one. Then a scream so horrible it hurls her off the bed. She claws the window open, gasping, back in her own room, but her arms carry wound marks, exactly where the black hands held her. It was real, all of it. Then, music. Mawar follows it and can't believe her eyes. Her mother, nearly healthy, walking on her own 2 feet, carrying a food tray to Omar. Omar ignores her, leaves without eating. Sari comes to Mawar instead, strokes her hair, holds her close, and Mawar holds on tighter than ever. Later, she shows Omar the ring from the secret drawer. Do you know about this? Does Mom? And holding it, Omar finally breaks. It belonged to Aini, his first wife. She died of illness just 6 months into their marriage. After that, his father Muqtal arranged his marriage to Sari. Mawar notices Sari watching them from a distance and gives her father the kind of advice only a daughter can. When you lose someone, you have to hold the people still alive closer. Then she asks, does he believe in the spiritual? Omar's answer, nothing on this earth is more terrifying than man. He has no idea how right he is, or how wrong. At the market, Mawar's friend spots a man in a hoodie and goes pale. The man walks into the studio. It's Riki, out of custody. Mawar strikes him from behind. They tie him up. How did you get out of the police station? Riki, aching and desperate, tells them the truth. Because I'm innocent. That's why they released me. I loved Safar. I'm the one who pulled her off the bad road. What bad road? The story takes us back. Safar had fallen into drugs for Sari, a famous dancer. It was unbearable. The shame, the reputation. She threatened rehab, screamed insults, and finally hurled that same filthy word at her own daughter. And Safar, drowning, snapped and shoved her mother away. Sari fell. That fall 7 months ago is what paralyzed her. The accident was never an accident. It was this family's original sin. Guilt devoured Safar. With Riki's help, she clawed her way out of addiction. And Riki swears on everything. He never even touched Safar. He has no idea how she got pregnant, but maybe Noni does. Safar used to talk about her. At home, Muqtal urges Omar to search the entire house. Something spiritual is at work. Envy is everywhere. Maybe Wahid cursed them another way. Broken and desperate, Omar searches, and beneath the doormat at the front entrance, he finds a scrap of cloth, covered, edge to edge in black magic incantations. Someone wants this family destroyed. Sari stands nearby, watching it all in silence. Convinced it's Wahid, Omar storms over to confront him, surrounded by Wahid's supporters. Accusations fly. And then Wad smiles and draws his true blade. He has Safar's autopsy report, the miscarriage. If this goes public, your honor dies with it. Omar goes rigid with rage. Wahid throws the cursed cloth in his face. You're destroying your own family. Omar lunges, the crowd restrains him, and Wahid's men beat him into the dirt. At home, Mawar hears music from her mother's room and finds Sari almost fully recovered, dancing like the old days. Mawar starts to tell her about Noni, and Sari shuts the door in her face. I'm tired. I want to rest. Something about that sentence is very, very wrong. Meanwhile, Wahid's dumped the beaten Omar beside his car, and he somehow drives home. And Mawar, she can't wait any longer. As she heads for Noni's house, her lights die, and from under her bed, a camera begins flashing. Flash! Flash! Like something in the dark is taking endless photographs. She reaches for it, water dumps onto her from above, the door swings open by itself, a hand clamps around her ankle, and there, at the edge of the darkness, Safar's ghost comes drifting toward her. Clutching the camera, screaming, Mawar slaps the light switch, the ghost vanishes. That same night, Omar doesn't go home. He goes to Wahid's house, gun in hand, deciding to end his rival once and for all. He raises the weapon, and Wahid's body slumps to the floor, throat already slit. Someone got there first. Omar stands frozen in the doorway, a loaded gun in his hand and a dead man at his feet. Mawar finally reaches Noni and confronts her head-on. The night Safar died, why did she come to you? And the story finally shows us. Safar lying on the floor of Noni's home. Noni rolling an egg over her body, reciting verses of the Quran over her. Safar convulsing in agony. And then the egg begins to tremble and bursts. Black liquid oozes from the shattered shell. Someone had done monstrous black magic on Safar. All Noni could do that night was give her the beaded bracelet, the one Safar wore home, the one that made something fail that night at the platform. Now Noni ties that same bracelet onto Mawar. Take it off. Who did this to Safar? Noni doesn't know, but her warning is ice. Be careful of everyone. The devil often wears the face of good people, and before you sleep, recite Ayatul Kursi. That night, Mawar recites the verses, trembling. The lights die. The door opens by itself, and Safar appears, walking somewhere, purposeful. Gone, Mawar follows, to the shore where the body was found, where Safar's corpse rises from the sand and walks backward through the night. The world itself is rewinding. Everything is dragging Mawar into the past, and suddenly she understands. That's why the ghost kept coming to her, not to haunt her, to show her, through the thorn forest to the torchlit platform. A ritual in the dark, Safar lying on the wood, and a monstrous dark entity upon her, violating her in a way no words should ever describe. And then the true horror lands. Mawar looks again and sees herself lying on that platform, the darkness turning its hunger toward her. But the bracelet flares, her mind snaps back, and the shadow's true face finally rises before her. Her own father, Muqtal. She shoves him away and runs. He chases with a knife, but age betrays him. He wheezes, falls behind, and Mawar escapes, until a monstrous force lands in her path, and Muqtal screams at it through the dark. Don't let her go! The third one will be mine! And at that promise, the thing simply vanishes. At home, Omar sits its hollow because he's discovered who killed Wahid, his own father, Muqtal. The lantern found at the scene gave him away. Sari massages his limbs with special oil, and that's when Mawar arrives, caked in mud, and tells them everything. Grandfather touched me, the way he touched Safar. Sari refuses, can't believe it. But Omar knows, a daughter wouldn't lie about this, not in this state. And at that exact moment, Sari convulses. Her eyes roll white, darkness swallows the house, and she vanishes. Omar hunts for her with a torch, and she appears before them, dancing in a way no human dances, chanting over and over, the third one, the third one. Then she flicks her hand and hurls Omar across the room like a doll. Mawar runs. Every door she reaches slams itself shut. She bursts outside, and the black force comes flying straight at her. She dives into a wardrobe. It shakes, stops, silence. Then the thing seizes her head. She bolts, and her mother steps out in front of her, smiling. Now everything ends. And just in time, Noni arrives, gripping Sari's head, pouring the words of Ayatul Kursi into her, until the entity is ripped screaming out of her body. Sari collapses unconscious, and they tie her to the bed. She isn't fully herself. Not yet, maybe not ever again. Sari softly, lovingly calls to her daughter, and Mal starts to melt toward her, when Noni's voice cuts like a blade. That is not your mother. She hurls something at Sari, and the thing inside shows itself. Noni demands answers. Who called you? Who is your master? It only laughs, and turns its gaze to the radio. The radio clicks on by itself. Sari's voice fills the room, and the story takes us back to the day Omar married Aini, his first wife, the woman in the hidden photographs, because Sari grew up alone. Dance made her famous, but fame was never the hunger. The hunger was Omar. She loved him so much it blinded her, consumed her. She had to have him, at any cost. And so she went first to Muqtal, seduced him, and dangled the promise of power beside her own body. And Muqtal followed her to a ritual where together they summoned the queen of the Djinn. Sari's wish was simple. Aini dies, and Omar becomes hers for life. The queen granted it, with one condition. Omar would stay hers only as long as Sari's beauty kept him spellbound. For years it did, until 7 months ago. Until Safar's shove. Until the paralysis. Until the moment at that family photo when Omar pulled his hand away. The spell was dying. So Sari called the queen again with Muqtal's help. The queen agreed to heal her for a price. The sacrifice of 3 unborn children, blood of Sari and Omar's own bloodline. And Sari chose her firstborn, Safar. Every single night, the Djinn took hold of Safar's body and walked her to that platform where her own grandfather violated her, so she would conceive, so the demon could harvest the child from her womb. It happened once, twice, and the third time never came, because Noni slipped that bracelet onto Safar's wrist. That night, when her grandfather came for her again, Safar's mind surfaced. She saw the demon. She saw him. She ran. He chased. And before he could reach her, she tripped, and a splintered piece of wood pierced her throat. That's how Safar died, not a murderer's knife. Her own mother's bargain. And with 2 unborn children harvested, Sari was slowly healing until Safar's death enraged the Djinn. The deal was unfinished. So Sari calmly offered up her other daughter. That night when she whispered, "I still have you, Mawar." That night when she said, "Everything will be all right," she wasn't talking to her daughter. She was talking to the thing standing behind her. The third child would come from Mawar's womb, and Mawar realizes it, cold to her very bones. She is already pregnant. Noni declares the only way out. The bond between Sari and the Djinn must be broken. She steps outside to gather the ritual materials, and a scream rips through the night. Omar runs out and finds her, dead, finished by Muqtal. The only person who could have saved them, gone. Omar shatters completely, and his father dares to justify it. By the Djinn's mercy, you've never known poverty. Everything I did for this family. You destroyed my daughter. Omar sobs, my own daughter, and while he's drowning, Sari's hand slides gently onto Mawar's shoulder. The thing inside her subdues the girl instantly. Mawar's cries pull Omar around. The demon flings him across the room like paper until he's out cold. Mawar wakes on the platform, her grandfather and mother looming over her, the ritual already turning. But the bracelet burns against the possession. It won't let the demon hold her long. Muktal kneels close, almost gentle. It'll be over soon. Then he sees the bracelet, and he smashes her hand against the platform again and again until it tears away. Then he stands before Sari and speaks his own wish aloud. She seizes, possessed, and black liquid wells up from her mouth. Drink, she commands, and Muktal drinks. Omar comes to, gun in hand, remembering exactly where Mawar said she found the earring, and he runs for the shore. He arrives at the platform and fires at his own father. Nothing. Bullets mean nothing to a man owned by a demon. Muktal pulls his knife and comes on. 2 more shots. Nothing. Father and son crash together in a savage, desperate struggle, while Mawar fights from inside, forcing the holy verses through her own lips, and the demon's grip begins to slip. Muktal hesitates over his son. How do you kill your own child? And the Djinn hisses through Sari. You want your wish? Then kill him! The knife drops toward Omar, and Mawar breaks free and slams into her grandfather. The fight reignites until Omar shoves the old man, and Muktal staggers backward onto the jagged stump of a tree, impaled, dying in the exact same way Safar died, the man who fed his granddaughter to a demon, consumed by the same cruelty he served. The Djinn shrieks out of Sari's body, and the sea itself splits open. She rises from the water in her true form, shapes melting off her one by one, until she stands wearing the face of a dancer. She commands Sari to bow her head. Sibos, speak your wish. Mawar and Omar scream at her to stop, but Sari stopped hearing this world years ago. There was only ever one thing she wanted, Omar. His love. And the queen pours black liquid from her own mouth, and Sari drinks. Then the price. Your daughter, her life. Fully surrendered, Sari turns the blade toward her own child. Omar throws himself between them and fights his possessed wife with everything left in him. And in the chaos, the queen seizes Mawar by the throat and lifts her into the air. Speak your wish, and I will grant it. And suddenly, Mawar is home, healthy, whole, dressed in a beautiful gown. And Safar's voice calls from the next room. Come on, the family photo. Everyone's waiting. Mawar picks up the camera and walks out, and sees her parents together, tender, laughing, the way they never once were. Everyone gathers for the photo. And for one fragile second, Mawar is the happiest girl alive, because this is everything she ever wanted. And that's exactly how she knows it's a lie. It's bait. The same bait that took her grandfather. The same bait that took her mother. Sari appears beside her, patting her hand. If you wish, everything can be fixed. And Mawar screams into the illusion's face, no, and the beautiful lie shatters like glass. She's back in the queen's grip, high above the ground, refusing. I will never be your servant. And the refusal breaks the bargain. The queen loses. Mawar drops free, and so does Sari. The clip from her own hair is driven into her own stomach. The price of a wish denied. Bleeding, broken, she turns to Omar one last time. Everything I ever did was to have you, and you never once loved me with your heart. The moment I got sick, you looked away. And Omar, finally, horribly, understands. You destroyed this family. But let me fix it now. Stay with me. Sari reaches out and touches his hand, the smallest mercy she has ever known. And the queen's gaze falls upon her. She rises in her most terrifying form. Whose servant are you? And Sari, smiling through tears, through blood, through everything, answers. Yours. The instant the word leaves her mouth, the queen drags her away. Omar and Mawar scream and cry helpless. Fire ignites across the platform, and the demon of the sea takes Sari down into the dark. Days later, Omar sits in a prison cell, charged with his father's murder and his wife's disappearance. Mawar visits him behind the glass. She knows he's innocent. The police never will. His execution is coming soon. She tells him she got the job and that her very first article was about the ritual that wakes the Djinn of the sea. She tried everything to save him. She failed. And Omar, a condemned man, finally speaks his only truth. His regrets are the life he never enjoyed, the family he never valued, and the wife he handed to a demon's terms by withholding the one thing she was starving for. If he had simply loved her, truly loved her, none of this ever happens. He asks his daughter for forgiveness, and she gives it. Then Mawar walks down to the seashore, sits alone where it all began, and looks at the last photograph her family ever took. If this story kept you glued to the screen, drop a like and a comment below. And if you're new here, subscribe, because stories like this are what this channel lives for. All updates are linked in the description. Thank you so much for watching, because in the end Safar wasn't killed by a demon. She was destroyed by the people who were supposed to love her. A mother who traded her children for a man, a grandfather who fed her to a monster, and a father who couldn't see his family collapsing until there was almost no one left to save. The Queen of the Djinn never really had to force her way into that house. The door was already open, and that's the part of this story you'll never escape.